I didn't really know I was going to end up in the position I ended up in. And that's part of the mystery and the mystique about this story. I basically took a gift that I was given at birth and gave myself an opportunity to survive at a time when everything that I had been ruined and destroyed. Not because of any choices that I made, but because of things that were subjected upon me. And I'm giving you guys a raw, uncut look at the truth so you can see for yourselves. I actually started working on this piece here as I'm finished years ago, and I have several people who can validate that position. This piece was about culture. This piece was about style, sex appeal, and attractiveness, like making people kind of regulate what's supposed to be, I guess, accepted as something that people can embrace as a proper way to express themselves through fashion, through art, and through culture. And what I did was made it a multi-level, multi-dimensional piece so that people could see not just an image, but there would be other messages and other information that they can get from the piece beyond just art. I've always tried to make my art be something a little bit bigger than art. You don't get to choose where you come from. You don't get to choose your family. You don't get to choose what's going to happen in your life. But you can take whatever you have and do the very best you can with it. And I was creating these pieces with nothing. All I had was what remained after people tried to ruin me. Why they tried to ruin me was because they tried to exploit my life and take advantage of this right here. They were going to try to write a story and make an involuntary financial investment on my life without my permission. And when I resisted them, they basically took everything from me and treated me like I was some type of a slave or something. And I just said, hell no. And I wasn't going to let anything interfere with what beauty is supposed to be to the rest of the world. And so I'm kind of sentimental. I'm old school when it comes to certain things. Like, I don't know what happened to people just giving a woman a rose or like a dozen roses or some flowers, or making her feel good, or telling her what you think makes her beautiful, or, you know, whatever you're into, whatever your mate of attraction is. Like, I don't know what happened to people just being open and honest about what they feel about somebody, in a non-creepy way, of course. I mean, you don't want to freak anybody out, but I wanted to do something that could give people an eternal kind of vibe of love. And there's another parallel that's on a much deeper level that you'll have to think about and do research upon, so you can see how art can parallel other things that happen in society. But I don't want anybody thinking that like I'm fake, so I'm letting you see the real thing from me myself, so that nobody has to come in and try to act like, oh, he did this because of me, or, you know, I was the one who made him who he is. I was already doing this. There were just people who were trying to block my energy and keep me from expressing to you these kinds of things. And you haven't even really seen anything yet. This is just kind of like the beginning of it. But this stuff is high art. And when you create world-class art, like world level, global level art from a low place, that's pretty spectacular. That's something that like you can't just find anywhere. And so I don't want to patronize anybody. You can take a look for yourself. The truth that I discovered was this: like, sometimes you don't know what the hell is going to happen in life. Life can deal you some things that no matter how much you're prepared, no matter how skilled and gifted you are, you just can't be prepared for it. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to go through it. And sometimes the only way to get to it is to go through it. You know, whatever your goal is that you have in mind, or whatever you're trying to overcome, or whatever you're trying to do, sometimes the only way to get to it is to go through it. And you don't get to choose and pick who your family is. You don't get to choose and pick how you're brought here to this earth. You don't get to choose what other people are going to try to do to you or someone else. But you do get to choose what you're going to do in the face of those circumstances. And I found myself in a position where it was like, hey man, look, you fight back against this or you die. I mean, it was that extreme. I stumbled upon some things that were meant to be the end of my life a few times. And that was when I knew, like, okay, like, this is serious. Like, this isn't a joke. Like, this is the real thing. Like, you got to take this serious. Like, you can't pretend this isn't going on. And I just listened and followed faith at a time when everybody was trying to make me question myself. I can't believe how many people were trying to see me fail. They were actually like proud to see the misfortune. They were like, yeah, you know, finally, like, we got this guy. Like, finally we can beat him. See, you're no better than anybody else. You know, like cruel things that were intended to be mean-spirited and hurtful, to marginalize your sense of self-worth, my sense of self-worth. And I just said, hell no. You know, I got to fight back. Like, this is my life. The surprise element came when I found out that my family was involved in it. I was a very private person. I didn't talk to very many people early in my life, and so nobody really knew what was going on with me. They considered me like a mystery man, is what they called me all the time. Because I was very limited in what I would disclose. So what happens is the people that are trying to exploit you, they try to go to the people who they think would know you best if they can't get the information from you, and they'll go to your friends and your family and your associates, etc. But there weren't that many people in my life that I got close to, and my actual biological family, like, they were really unsupportive overall unless it was from a distance. Like, I was on my own for a long time. I was pretty much on my own, having to provide for myself for the longest time, since I was like 12. And so nobody really knew, because nobody cared. I mean, nobody really cared about anything around the environment I was in, except everything that society rejects: drinking, getting high, violence, very low education and etiquette, just things that were shameful and embarrassing. I thought I would give you all something very special to see and give you insight into something that if you have an opportunity to view. This is a sample of a study I did of ledger-enquirer. This is a sample. So much for that.
One of the other dimensions that should be mentioned is what was going on throughout this period in time when a lot of people were saying that I had gotten lost, that they lost track of me, that they lost track with me. I first started hearing people say things like that around 2004, 2005. I had gone through a tumultuous time trying to regroup from being ambushed by some people who had conspired to destroy me, ultimately, and overwhelm my life. And so after I found my way through it, I started to search for the pieces that remained so that I could continue to move forward with what I had started from the onset. Throughout this period in time, it was very difficult to readjust because we had economic trouble in the country, we had a war underway, we had a lot of transitions taking place politically, and then we had this new technological revolution on the forefront of our future. And so there was really no time to wait, if you will, for an opportunity. You either had to make something happen or you would be stampeded by society in one way or another. I can recall people saying, well, what happened to this guy? He's not working. He's not doing what he used to do. He's not acting like the guy that we used to see. What happened? Is something going on? I had people claiming that I had become a drug addict and I had become an alcoholic and I had become all of this stuff. I had people saying that, oh, well, he's gay and he's bicurious and he's bisexual. People questioning my sexuality. I had people doing things intended to cast doubt upon me, my reputation, and my character. And then it reached a point where they start treating you like, all right, well, Since he's not doing what he usually does, I guess that means he's a bum now. I guess that means he's homeless now. I guess that means he's unwilling to work. He's a criminal. He's a drug dealer, or what have you. It was none of that. All of it was a lie. They were just finding new ways to try to turn people against me, because they know that having a consensus population of people who know who you are and support you is your way to your freedom. And so they were trying to take me out before I could ever get started. And I beat them. Part of the reason why I had to delay bringing some of the things that I had been working on to the forefront was for a very simple reason. These characters want to find out what you're going to do to survive your circumstances and overcome the overwhelming situation that they put you in to survive. And even if you persist and survive and achieve, they will use what you achieve to survive to figure out how to hold other people back to keep them from surviving or achieving in the same way that you did. So they want to let you figure out how to survive and overcome the odds if you're the lucky one and beat it. And then they want to use what they learned about how you beat it to oppress everybody else. And I realized it. And I said, well, I can't let me going out trying to find a way to show people what I can do beyond this be the thing that gets me forward yet holds everybody else back. And that's how insidious the system is, because they want to be ahead of you before you get started. So the collection and dissemination of other people's information had started long before all of these hacks that involved the Sony scandal and NSA and all of that. They were collecting data since the internet started, but nobody really knew it. It was something that was limited to just the government at that time. They wanted to know how people were going to use that technology, what they would do with it, and what have you. And when they saw somebody that did something with that they thought could be a potential legal issue, a national threat or something, they collected that data early. And that's what I'm always talking about when I say people who exploit what they can get from a law before there is a law. So you can't be punished for something if there is no law for it. And so what they did was use those gray areas that they created intentionally to be able to entangle people up, rip them off, and then say, oh, well, that's not what we were really trying to do. And, well, they didn't have any law, so we're not accountable for that. And so they came up with ways for people to be able to protect their electronically transmitted information. And they actually started the process in the 80s with the Electronic Transfer of Information Act. I might have mispronounced the name of the actual act, but that's what it amounts to it being. Information that's exchanged is supposed to be protected information for the people or the parties who sent that information out in the first place. Because there would be no other way to protect what could happen to the information if other people disseminated that information beyond the person that was the recipient. See, when you send somebody a snail mail letter, for example, the first person that's supposed to get that information, and the only person that's supposed to get that information where they can actually open it and utilize it legally, is the person that it was sent to. Well, the electronic information had the ability to be something that was disseminated to multiple people, even if it was just unintentional. And they have that information right there at their disposal to see. Not in an envelope, not in anything where anybody had to check the address. It could just be disseminated through the network, through a server or some type of internet protocol or ISP address or something. So it became complicated, uncharted territory. And what I wanted to do was protect myself more than anything. And I knew the main thing that I had to try to protect was my personal information. See, a lot of people gave up all of their personal information to the internet. They tell you you get some new way to connect with somebody on a social network media, and people take all of their family pictures and all of their most sacred history and just put it out there. And now, when it's time for them to give validation to their lives, they don't really have a validation because they gave it all away. And then they get mad at everybody else because the things that they should have kept that could have value, well, they gave it away for attention from people who don't even really mean anything. And that's when it gets bad. I chose not to sell my soul. I chose not to sell my body and my mind to all of those things that seemed like they were some type of cheap electronic thrill. And I don't mean that disparagingly against people who found their way into something gainful for them through that way. But I didn't want to give my life up to cyber technology. And so I waited. And I think it was the wise decision to make, because if I didn't wait, the same system that's meant to protect me could have destroyed me like it has destroyed a lot of people. And part of the reason why I was able to overcome some of the things that I've overcome when other people were overwhelmed and destroyed was because of what I didn't do, not because of what I did do. And people need to understand that. They wanted my life to look like some tragedy where I had gone out and my personal choices created some type of failure. None of it was true. They made it up. They were just trying to come up with a way to create a diversion or distraction for what they wanted to steal from me. And so now, I've been working on things at my uncle's place, for example. Some of this stuff has the potential to be innovation. And so these losers came into the equation and tried to make me end up in a conflict with my uncle so that they could come back and try to capitalize off of whatever they thought they could get from what I had been working on. Just preying on other people. And so please be mindful of the fact that people have tried desperately, relentlessly, to try to mischaracterize me over an endured period of time, and none of it's true. And I was able to validate my own life position and own myself and have a self-identity. And I'm just grateful for having been given the ability to be able to do so when so many people can't. A lot of people are lying now, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people are contributing to lies. A lot of people are harming people. And there are only going to be a few people that are left that you can count on that'll be real with you. And so you should take this information very seriously, because there would be no other way that you could get it. And I try to make sure that I take care of the protection of other people's information as well as my own in the same way and with the same degree of integrity. Thank you all very much for listening in. This is The Thought Line. I'm your host, Reggie Radney, and I've got information for you.